What am I gonna do with all this food? What do you think? What do you think? What do you want to do with all the food? Do you want to pickle it? Do you want to pickle it? All right, so we're gonna be pickling some jalapenos today. That sounds delicious. What's up, everyone? Today's a very special episode because we're switching gears a little bit. We're gonna move from fishing to pickling peppers. Take a look at my harvest for the day. Just too much food. There's absolutely no way that I'm gonna be able to eat all this food fresh, and I really enjoy pickled peppers. So we're gonna do some pickled jalapenos, and we're gonna do some pickled Hungarian hot wax peppers or banana peppers, pretty similar. And these tomatoes will probably end up making some salsa, but today we're gonna focus on pickling peppers. So let's get started. All right, so before we get started, let's talk about the things that we're gonna need. First of all, you're gonna need some jars. I'm just using regular ball mason jars. I have various different sizes. You can use whatever you'd like. Make sure that you have new or in very good condition used tops and rings. You don't wanna use a jar that doesn't have lids and rings because you're not gonna be able to seal it correctly, unless you're just gonna eat them fresh, which I don't recommend. These things will last over the winter if you make enough of them, so get proper jars and do it the right way. You're gonna need water, and you're also going to need vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar. I'm gonna use this white distilled vinegar. So this is optional, but if you like it for taste, you can add garlic and or onions. So I'm gonna do both. Next step's gonna be to wash the peppers. You wanna make sure that your peppers are washed, especially if they're store-bought peppers. First of all, you don't want dirt on them. Second of all, if there's any chemicals that have been used on them, you don't want that on there either. So let's wash the peppers up. There, now that we have the peppers all nice and cleaned up, we're going to cut them. This is going to be the part that's going to take you the longest out of the whole thing, probably. You can cut them however you like. You can half them, you can quarter them, you can do whatever you want to. I'm going to just cut them into nacho slices because that's the way I like it for my sandwiches and stuff. So let's get to cutting. Okay, now that we have the peppers cut, next thing we want to do is pack our jars. So I get the jars out, pack them up, and now when you're packing these jars, you really want to push them down. Push the peppers down inside the jar so you can get as many peppers into the jar that you can. That way, when you pan them, you don't end up with a whole bunch of empty room. Just do your best to get them pressed down in there, and you just want them up to the rim here. That's what you'll have right there. You have a jar that's packed pretty much all the way up to the rim, and you shove all the peppers all the way down as far as you can get them. That way when you can these, they don't end up having this much room at the bottom of the jar that didn't get filled. Now you could combine the jalapenos and the Hungarian hot wax peppers if you'd like. You could really do any pepper combination that you want to do. I really like them separate, so I'm gonna pack them into separate jars. I'm not gonna mix any of them. So another thing to note that I didn't mention before is that I didn't remove any seeds or guts from these peppers. So they're gonna be as hot as they possibly can be. So if you don't like your peppers to be super, super hot, consider gutting and or removing all the seeds and the insides of the peppers. That way you'll get the flavor, but you won't get the heat that I like. So now I'm just doing the exact same thing that I did with the jalapenos for the hot wax peppers, or whatever other type of pepper that you're using. We're making sure to get all the peppers packed into the jars as tight as possible and all the way up to that bottom of the rim. I did end up actually mixing a few jars. I had 2 jars here that I ended up mixing because I didn't have enough jalapenos to fill in one of the big jars like this. And I also didn't have enough of the hot wax peppers to fill a small jar like this. So I mixed them together and filled 2 small jars of the mix. So they'll be good like that too. Next thing we're gonna do is make our brine. What we're gonna do is basically mix 1 part water and 1 part vinegar, whatever vinegar you choose. And you only need so much brine. The basic rule that I'm gonna follow is going to be 1 cup of brine for each pint and then 2 cups for each quart. So I have 7 pints, plus I have a quart. So I'm gonna half that, which is gonna be 9 cups of brine. I'm gonna put 4.5 cups of water and 4.5 cups of vinegar. And then I'm also gonna cut up my onions and my garlic, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And I'm gonna put that in there as well. This is a 2-cup measuring cup, so 2 cups of water, 4 cups of water, and 4.5 cups. Now for your vinegar, same thing. There's 2 cups, there's 4 cups, and just up to the half cup. There it is. We're going to set our burner to high. We're gonna get this heating up. While this is heating up, we're also gonna add 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 tablespoons of salt. Here's my sugar. There's 1. And there's 2. And then the same for the salt. There's 1 and there's 2. So I'm just gonna give that a stir. Make sure it all gets dissolved in there. And the amount of salt and sugar kind of just depends on your preference and how much you're making. Obviously I'm making a very large batch. You might want to add a little bit more sugar if you like it a little bit sweeter, maybe a little bit less if you like it less sweet and more hot. It just adds a little bit of flavor to it. So while this is heating up, we're going to cut some garlic and cut some onion, and then we're going to add it to this to make our brine. So for this recipe, I'm going to use 1 sweet onion and 3 large cloves of garlic. You can really vary this depending on how much you like. If you like a lot of garlic, you might want to add more. If you like less, you might want to add less. The onion and the garlic are both kind of optional, so you don't even have to add them if you don't like. It'll turn out just fine and be very delicious even without this stuff. This is just kind of the addition. This stuff is not actually going to go in the jars. It's just going to be for the brine to kind of flavor the brine. So let's get to cutting. So I got just a rough cut here. Doesn't have to be anything special. Doesn't have to be diced or anything like that. And also our brine has come to a rolling boil. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add this stuff in. Another thing I forgot to mention is I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper into it. So you can if you want to, you don't have to. Gave it a good couple rounds of pepper grinder. Now this is boiling pretty good. Give it a stir around with all of our ingredients. You could also add some dill or fresh herbs of any sort that you have laying around if you want to. And with that, I'm going to reduce our heat to about medium-low. And I'm gonna cover it and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. I'm filling them with the liquid right up to the brim, just like I did with the peppers. So I'm gonna take a rubber spatula like this, and I'm just gonna kind of press it down in there and get all the air out of them. You don't wanna have any air inside the can, otherwise it might not can correctly. All those little tiny pockets in between each of the peppers, those all need to be released, so. And once you get all the air out of there, you might have to add some more liquid. Alright, so I got all my jars all filled here with hot liquid. What I'm going to do now is put the caps on them, and this part's really important. You don't want to over tighten the caps when you do it, otherwise they'll all buckle, because you have to allow the air to get out of the can. That's basically what canning's doing, is getting it really hot, making all the air expand and get out of the jar. So when you put the lid on, what you want to do is place the lid on top of the jar, get your band, put it on the can, hold the top on with 2 fingers, and just tighten it down with fingertips. So like, you don't want to just wrench it on there, you just want to give it a good little tighten with your fingertips, so it's not loose, but it's also not completely stuffed on there tight. So I'm going to do that with every one. Okay, I got the jars all sealed up and they're ready for the canners. Okay, so there it is. All of our peppers all canned. They're gonna be good for up to a year now, which is great. I'll be able to store them in my pantry and use them over the winter, which is what I like. They look pretty. So now your first reaction tomorrow, when they're all cooled off, is gonna be to crack one open and try some. Don't do it. Let them sit. Let them sit for about 2 weeks before you open the first one. The reason is the brine is gonna work its way into the peppers. It's gonna make it delicious. They're just gonna get better and better the longer you let them sit. So wait 2 weeks, then try them. You'll thank me later. So anyways, that's all for the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something. If you have your own peppers in your garden, or you just like peppers and you want to go to the grocery store and buy your own peppers and try this out, I encourage you to do so. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and also subscribe so you can see more videos like this. If you're into hunting, fishing, cooking, gardening, stuff like that, do all that kind of stuff on my channel here. So subscribe, hit that bell notification so you get notified the next time I post a video, and thanks for watching.